Friends, welcome. Today, I am so excited to share with you a conversation with my friend and client, Meg Geisewite, who is a new author. Her book, Intoxicating Lies, is on shelves today. And I'm so grateful to be able to share this conversation with Meg as she helps to normalize gray area drinking, mommy wine culture, and so many things that I know that you will resonate with in terms of your relationship with alcohol. I would love to let you know that there is a little trigger warning here. We do talk a little bit about sexual assault, not in graphic detail, but it is mentioned. So if that's something that you're sensitive to, I want to let you know that it is brought up in this episode. And it is just a really great conversation about healing, growth, and stepping into your potential and rewriting your story by acknowledging and shifting your mindset about the lies that we've told ourselves about alcohol and ourselves. And without further ado, please let me introduce you to Meg Geisewite. Meg is an ordinary mom who found herself trapped in the mommy wine culture. She began her sober curious journey in November of 2019, where her love for science led her to discover the real truth about alcohol and its seductive lies. In Meg's debut book, Intoxicating Lies, Meg flips the script of silence in the mommy wine culture and most common lies we tell ourselves about alcohol. Meg resides in Delaware with her husband and two teenage children. Her family has been her rock throughout her alcohol-free journey. You can often find Meg enjoying nature on the beautiful biking trails of Delaware. Without further ado, please welcome to the show my friend, Meg Geisewite. Today, we are talking with my friend, Meg Geisewite, and I am so excited to share with you her new book, Intoxicating Lies. I just got my copy properly in the mail this last week, and I've been reading through it. And I know that so many of you are going to enjoy this conversation and really see yourself reflected in Meg's story. So, Meg, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here.
Oh, Amanda, thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be here and appreciate you reading my book.
Yes. Well, I think that a lot of people are going to want to read your book after listening to your story and hearing kind of themselves reflected in what your experience was with drinking and mommy wine culture and a whole bunch of other things that are really things that impact the way that we have our relationship with alcohol. And I would love for you just to start out by, I want to just kind of give some normalcy to how these relationships with alcohol can start. But the first thing that we want to talk about is the subtitle of your book um is about finding freedom from gray area drinking. So can you define that term in your words for anyone who might be new to this world of learning about gray area drinking?
Sure, it's a great question. It's actually been in the literature, the medical literature, for over a decade. But the way that I like to explain it is you have, say, Aunt Mary, who has a glass of champagne at a wedding for a toast. She might have a glass of wine for her birthday. She may not even finish that glass of wine on her birthday. Then at the other end of the spectrum, and it is a spectrum, there is about 10% of people who, if they were to give up alcohol, they're completely dependent upon it and would need a medical detox. And that's about 10% of the population. So everything in between is called gray area drinking, which is a vast, large category on the alcohol use disorder spectrum. And the reason I wrote my book was at the time that I became sober curious in 2019, there wasn't a lot of books that were explaining what gray area drinking was and mirroring what my drinking looked like, which had no external consequences. It was a lot of suffering silently. And it's really become an epidemic for women in particular. You know, we know that drinking went up 42% in women during the pandemic, which I touch upon in my book as well. But for women, you know, we're winning awards, we're highly functioning at work, usually at CEOs, lawyers, doctors, highly successful people who aren't having any external consequences and take lots of breaks during their drinking. So they may quit for a little while, but we always go back to our gray area of drinking, and we just can't kind of get out of what I love, Jen Couch from Sober Says talks about, which is the detox to retox loop. And
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly what I was stuck in. It was like this continuous Groundhog's Day of, you know, taking breaks or thinking I could not do it again that night, and then falling back into that trap. And a lot of shame and guilt came along with that. And I suffered silently for a long time because a lot of people told me my drinking looked just like theirs. My family, when I would ask them about it, would say, "Do you think you're addicted?" they would think I was crazy for even questioning it. And in fact, there's a chapter in my book where my therapist, when I finally got the courage to tell her I thought I had a drinking problem, she told me, no, I think you're thinking about it too much.
Hmm.
And so that kept my gray area of drinking in motion for 2 more years, that ill advice. And, we get it. We get this confusion because when we go to the gym and we do yoga and they have mimosas afterwards, or you're on the Peloton and they're telling you to sweat out the toxins, they're normalizing this gray area of drinking. And if we
Hmm.
don't start talking about it more, we're on a one-way drinking highway. And if something major happens in your life, the shade of gray you're in could shift to a darker shade pretty quickly.
Totally. So can you tell us a little bit about the shade of gray that you were in when you were kind of at the tail end of your drinking relationship?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I didn't really hit a rock bottom. So
Hmm.
I don't know, and I'm not here to diagnose anybody. I don't know what exact shade I was, but I can tell you that what ended up happening for me was, in college, I had a sexual assault incident that happened, and then post college, a date rape that happened. And what that thrusted me into was an over functioning need to control, because I had no control over my body, state of mind. And I fell into, because I got into sales, the hustle culture. And I was what I produce. I was as good as my last rankings. I was winning awards and finding my validation and my worth in what I was accomplishing at work. And I fell into the beauty culture. I got into aesthetic sales. And so now I was pushing look perfect while you do it, and let's look like we have it all. And so that was another lie that I bought into. And then I've met my husband in the industry. We got married and had 2 kids. And I fell into the mommy wine culture. I bought the tea towels and the t-shirts and the napkins that said behind every great mom is a bottle of wine. And then when I wasn't the great mom that the tea towel said I would be or promised me, I felt like a failure. And so I had more shame and guilt and secrecy coming into my life, feeling not good enough. And really, it just perpetuated this chronic achiever, perfectionism, over functioning, and people pleasing that I was really being trained to do in sales as well. And the culture in my job was like, it was frowned upon if you didn't go to the bar afterwards. It
Hmm.
was like an expectation, really. And so it really still was more of like a recreational use with alcohol. And what happened was I had 3 back-to-back life events that happened 2 weeks apart to
Hmm.
3 of the most important people in my life. And that shifted my drinking from a recreational use to a medicinal use.
Hmm.
And we aren't trained really how to regulate our nervous system. And it was too much all at once. And I found myself saying, I deserve a glass of wine. And I really looked forward to that wine at the end of the day after taking care of everyone. And at that time, my husband had lost his job. So I was the sole provider for the family, the sole income maker. And that was a lot of pressure. Um, I was navigating a friend that we lost she lost her husband unexpectedly. And I had a friend who came forward to me and wanted to get justice after her sexual molestation. And that brought all of my past sexual traumas kind of forward, where I thought I had dealt with them, but I really hadn't. And they were still
Hmm.
stored in my body. And so it was when I, again, wanted to be in control of everything, when I no longer wanted my kids to do sports in the evenings so that I could come home to my rewarding glass of wine, I was scared, because I was like, wow, this is in control of me. I'm
Hmm.
no longer in control of it. It is in control of me. And
Hmm.
so even though everybody around me was telling me it was normal and I didn't have a drinking problem, my inner knowing, that small, quiet voice within, was pleading with me to do something about my toxic relationship with alcohol. I was so sick and tired of being in the detox to retox loop. And that is when I became sober curious in November of 2019.
Yes. Well, that is such, I just want to we have talked privately about this, but it's such a big and tremendous accomplishment to recognize and be curious about that space of this doesn't feel right. I feel like no matter what everyone else is saying, that there's something else going on here and to explore that. So you've used so many tools to get you to the place that you are now since that time. And can you tell us a little bit about the different tools and support systems that you've touched into that have helped you to achieve success on this journey?
Yeah. So when you remove a substance, everything that you haven't dealt with is going to rise to the surface. So it's really hard. I don't want anybody to think like, oh, I get rid of alcohol and life is perfect and you go on your merry way. In fact, it is going to force you to go inward, but it is the most beautiful part of the journey because we aren't really taught this. We don't have an earth school. I am a big proponent of therapy. And I say that in my book. I also am a podcast junkie and I love your podcast. And books, Quit Lit. If you can't afford therapy, dive into the support that is free to you online. There are communities that are free, but really, I feel like there are a lot of times where I got stuck in life. So I had this story swirling in my head of not feeling good enough. And I did a type of therapy, and I talk about it in the book. It's called somatic therapy, where I had to go back into my body. And I did some of this work with you as well, where I was stuck again, even after I got through this not good enough feeling in my body that I was afraid of public speaking. And you and this other life coach really took me back to that inner child. And we went back and reparented and loved on that inner child. And that work is so profoundly healing. It's almost like I feel like life is like a Jumanji game. And
Uh-huh.
so, you're like trying to level up and then you get stuck. And it's usually one of these lies that we believe. And again, I talk about all these lies in the book. And so a life coach can help you identify them and then work with you to go back in time to literally heal that little child or adolescence or, whatever time period it was for you, that this lie or story that you're telling yourself. And really it's not true. It did
Yeah.
happen, but it's a lot of the stories that we tell ourselves. And so uncovering them and healing them have been such a beautiful thing for me because life now is happening for me. It's not happening at me. I was caught in like a victim. I was either the victim, prosecuting, judging, or I was rescuing. And I stayed in that drama triangle the entire time I was drinking. Drinking was just freezing my problems only to be dealt with the next day. I
Mhm.
thought it was a reward, but it was just compounding my anxiety, my depression. And there's no shame in this though, because we've been sold so many lies and we're not warned that, it is a carcinogenic, it's a depressant. Um, it's highly addictive drug. I mean, there's just so much shame when I talk to women that they have around their drinking, and we aren't taught, we aren't warned. And then when we go to seek out the information, we're kind of stigmatized or labeled like we have the problem.
Mhm.
No, we do. That's another lie. We don't have the problem. Alcohol is the problem.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but working with you was profound because I was at a place with my book launch where I felt really stuck, and you called me right out and said, Meg, you've got to come out on camera. You've got to show your face more. And I was hiding. And that's kind of what alcohol does too. It keeps you small and quiet and checked out,
Mhm.
and we play these small roles. And I really just want to say thank you because you helped me move to the next level in the game.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for saying that. And for anyone who's wondering, I also I have a part of my coaching business where I work with women who are already alcohol free, who are entrepreneurs, go-getters, creators of some sort that want to unlock this next level of their greatness. And alcohol is just one of the ways we dull down as I like to say, our sparkle. And Meg and I worked on getting herself prepped to be out in the public eye and to give this gift of this book to the world. And it's one of the many ways, she's invested in herself to help unbottle her potential. But I actually want to go back and talk too about your therapeutic process, because as you said, so many people are hoping that sobriety will be a quick fix to their problems, that they'll quit drinking and everything will just kind of work itself out. And you have to work it out. Like, that's the time that you step up. Now you have this time and energy freed up. And I think that one thing, actually a couple things that you mentioned that are really profound, is that you probably like me and many others have tried lots of different types of therapy in your life. And most of us have only been exposed to talk therapy. So could you share a little bit about the different types of modalities you tried out before you found the one that really helped unlock some of the trauma and the lies that you were holding within your body and within your mind?
I mean, I really did a lot of talk therapy. Most of my life was talk therapy. And I was just a big believer in therapy in general. And I thought it was helping me. And I don't want to say that it didn't. It did. They were able to identify and uncover things that I think sometimes when you're stuck with your own lenses, you can't see, and having that outside perspective opens your eyes up to new things and growth. But when there's trauma involved, I am a big believer in somatic therapy and going back into the body. And whether it be with the tapping EFT or EMDR, but releasing that stored emotion in our body. It's like the book, The Body Keeps Score, and it does. And so even though I had done all this therapy, what would happen was when I was watching a movie where if there was a sexual assault or a rape happening, I would start sweating. I would start shaking. I mean, I was having a post-traumatic stress response to what I was watching. And that was my body saying, this is still here.
Yeah.
This is still stored.
Yeah.
And so I worked with a transformational life coach where we went in and we went back into those incidents. As hard as it was, the release and the healing that came from those sessions together shifted me completely. I wouldn't say my body's completely forgotten about it. That's not really true either. It's still there a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, it will be. I don't want to like say, oh, it just went away. But when I see those things on TV now, I don't have the physical response like I used to have.
Mm-hmm.
And so much of my self-worth was being wrapped up in this as well. And so, when my therapist said to me, you are already more than enough, no one had ever said that to me. And all of that chasing and proving and hustling and grinding and perfectionism and people pleasing just released. And it's like, I talk about it in the book, it's like a snake who sheds her skin 12 times a year. We have to shed these old versions of ourselves without shame or guilt. Like, look at the old shape of her skin, not with judgment, not with guilt, not with shame, but that she was doing the best that she could at the time. Mm-hmm. And then you step into this newer, clearer, more vibrant, right? The sparkle, like you say, into your, like you always talk about, your fullest potential. And when I was drinking, there was such a corrosion to that connection. Alcohol corroded that connection. It was not there. And when I removed it, it was like the little gem. And I talk about this at the end of my book, which we all have this bright light gem inside of us. It just, we have to dust her off with all of the conditioning, old beliefs, the limiting beliefs, the lies, the stories that we tell ourselves, to let her shine. And, we don't have a purpose. Our purpose is just to shine. And when we do that, then we can help another person's light shine. And that's what I think life is all about, is just letting this, what we already have in us, we don't have to do anymore. It's already there. And you helped me see that.
Yeah. Well, you have such a big mission and a beautiful story. And it's so brave to write your story, let alone then share it and come out and promote it and give that gift to the world. And it's so important that you are able to do that in your way. And And then also the bigger you that's out there, listeners are able to express, whether that means writing a book or just becoming the best mother, entrepreneur, 9 to 5 worker, spouse, whatever, sister, brother, mother, whatever it is that you identify as, being that in its brightest, fullest capacity is your birthright and what you're intended to do. And Meg, you're just really shining bright by sharing your mission and vision in a way that you might never have imagined or been able to conceptualize had you not quit drinking.
Yeah. And it's not to say that self-doubt and the imposter syndrome don't pop up. It's like young Pablo says, those patterns, those coping skills, those old patterns are going to pop up. It's catching them more and shutting them and letting that go. And one of the things that has been really helpful for me is movement, where I am able to release the emotions. Sometimes that is cussing on my bike. Sometimes that is singing, not that anybody wants to hear it, or it's just when I'm on a walk out in nature, I do this gratitude practice every day. It's called Find the Beauty in the Day. And it's finding one thing that brings you joy, that lights up that little inner child in you. It can be a sunset. I collect rocks that are in the shape of hearts. It can be a leaf that's heart. It can be a tree, but it's something that you savor. And I take a picture of it. And I'm like, it brings this awe and wonder and magic into the day. When I go out on my walks, I can't wait. I'm like, oh, I wonder what I'm going to see today.
Yes.
And I really believe that the universe has our back, and that some of these animals, really are like spirit guides and have messages for us. And it's the universe telling us, I've got your back. Even though you may feel scared, you may feel uncertain, it's going to be okay. And so when I see those things, I know, I'm like, oh, it's just going to be fine. I know the universe has my back.
Oh, so beautiful. Meg, I want to put a little cliff note on this too, because one of the things that I'm noticing, January is a big time for Quit Lit to be released, and winter and fall. And so I have like a little stack of my Quit Lit books that have come out, and I've been reading through all of these stories and these memoirs and these just beautiful expressions of people's alcohol-free journeys. And what I'm finding is that, wow, there's so much crossover, which I knew, because when I was received the intuition to share about my experience and journey, I knew there had to be other people out there like me who are experiencing the same thing. And yet it's still such an underserved market and under talked about topic and experience that it's so beautiful, because I see so much of your experience and my own, and so much of many of these other authors' experiences when and part of that as an author could be intimidating. Like, well, somebody else already wrote the book, I don't have to say it. But it's not, because the more times a person can hear, oh, me too, this is normal, this is what you're experiencing, this curiosity is okay, to counterbalance, to kind of wrap back around to that experience with your therapist where she said, oh, there's no need to worry. That was probably such a punch in the gut for you at the time. And I had a very similar experience where, I had my therapist and she said, oh, no, you could drink, just learn to drink it a little less and you're all good, because she was going off of the only model she had, which is the diagnoses, that she had
the
to go
black
through
and white drinking boxes. Right.
Exactly. So she went through the boxes and she's like, nope, that's not Amanda. So you're all good to go. And it wasn't that she was vindictive or trying to, she didn't have like big, that I know of. I'm 100% sure she didn't have like big alcohol paying her off or anything. And she wasn't even a big drinker. She just was ignorant to the fact that there were other options and that maybe she could support it. And I actually wanted to ask you kind of a follow-up though, because one of the things we fail to realize is how often even the most well-meaning and well-educated people can get it wrong. And as someone who has spent your sales career in the medical profession, I know that you have also seen doctors, physicians, highly educated, highly intelligent people either say something that's not true, or but they believe it's true because it hasn't been researched enough, or say something that they want to believe is true because they need to turn a blind eye to it in order to basically break up their own dissonance or feed their own relationship with alcohol that might be a little not in the best place. Can you speak and not trying to call anyone out because it's just the way things are. But I think that you've
Yeah.
probably seen this in your career very, very prevalently.
I was just having a conversation with my primary care doctor and I
Mm-hmm.
had a physical, and I love now being able to go in and be like, I drink zero. Um, but, I told her, I said, you warned me about the impacts of alcohol on my sleep. Now I was stuck in my gray area of drinking and I had my blinders up and I didn't want to hear what she had to say.
Mm-hmm.
But when I became sober curious and my sleep improved dramatically, guess whose first voice came into my head? It was
Mm-hmm.
hers.
Yeah.
And so I went back and I said, I want to thank you for telling me the truth about alcohol and the impacts that it would have on me. And I said to her, with me being in pharmaceutical sales, why is it that some physicians actually give a permission slip? I was actually talking to a reporter the other day who said,
Mm-hmm.
my doctor is fine with my nightly wine.
Mm-hmm.
So he felt like he had the permission slip, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And she said, it's because that, just like what you said, they too are in gray area drinking or
Mm-hmm.
drinking, and so sometimes they don't want to kind of throw shade at what they're doing themselves, right? It's like
Yep.
holding that mirror up. But I think the tides are changing because there is so many more scientific studies coming out. And I'm starting to see that physicians are, seeing that there's no amount safe for the heart,
Mm-hmm.
that, it does shrink the brain,
Mm-hmm.
that it is a carcinogenic. And so I think the tides are turning,
Yeah.
and I'm seeing that from some of the physicians that I know. And so I just hope that continues to grow. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the more we talk about gray area drinking and not this black and white, like you said,
Yeah.
because when we do that, we make ourselves feel better, right? We label
Mm-hmm.
people up and we put them into boxes just to make ourselves feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was speaking with this reporter, I said, I hate to tell you this, but I drank just like you did.
Mm-hmm. Oh, she was like looking for the permission slip for herself. I love
Right.
that when you do those interviews and you're like, well, honey, actually, hate to break it to you, but well, and let's get into I don't want you to reveal all of the lies that you have written in the book because I really think that everyone listening should consider going to buy Meg's book and support her writing and her journey. And I think that you'll really enjoy it. But I would love for you to tell us out of the 5 lies that you share about in the book, which one do you think that you were trapped in the most?
Oh, well, I would probably have to say, and I hear this the most from women, I'm curious to hear if you hear this one the most too,
Mm-hmm.
is I deserve it. I
Mm-hmm.
earned it. It was a
Mm-hmm.
reward at the end of the day. And I think that was really probably a lot of the mommy wine culture too that I had fallen trapped to.
Mm-hmm.
But my second biggest fear was that I would be boring.
Mm-hmm.
So it was probably neck and neck. Those are two are the two that had me the most. But I hear from women when I talk to them and in my groups that it was a much deserved, and really what a crappy consolation prize we're giving ourselves as women. We need, and we don't hear this enough, we need community, connection, support, and
Mm-hmm.
rest.
Yeah.
And rest is a big one. That's starting to kind of come out now, where I love seeing big sober influencers who are like, I'm taking a month off of social media, or I'm taking this break. And I'm like, bravo, we need to have more highly successful women modeling that it's okay to rest, it's okay to take a break,
Mm-hmm.
because our society is telling them to grind, do more, and solve it all with a drink.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the reality is, even that rest, which is taking a cognizant break of from social media or whatever is distracting you. But as you mentioned earlier, your physical rest, your ability to sleep is deeply impacted by alcohol. And I'm really excited about. I mean, the data is not going to be uplifting. Let's be truthful, but I'm excited about the data that we're now getting from all of these wearable devices, like Whoop and Aura Ring, that are really showing that even one drink can and does drastically change all of your vital signs and the type of sleep that you get. So even just resting on a daily basis as a woman who is always doing the emotional labor for her family and work unit, you need literal rest at the end of the day. And I can promise you, and you can attest to this, Meg, that what you're getting as a drinker is not it.
Yeah.
And it's just not. So I would love if we kind of can shift gears and have you talk a little bit more and speak to this, some of the additional healing and expressions of your potential that you've been able to step into, and the work that you've done and really are encouraging other women to do as they explore their relationship with alcohol. Would you want to tell us some things in your life that have changed and improved and blossomed as you've gotten further and further away from alcohol and closer to yourself?
Yeah, I mean, some of the, and okay, so I'm going to call them non-negotiables, but there's a little asterisk at the end. I do
Mm-hmm.
not believe in absolute perfectionism, meaning if it doesn't happen every day, I don't beat myself up. But one of the ways that I have learned to slow down is in meditation, is to
Mm-hmm.
just, even if it's for 5 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
sit on my pillow. If I need to have a candle, if my thoughts are all over the place, to help me kind of keep my focus, but not have judgment about my meditation either, right?
Yeah.
Like the monkey mind may be swinging from branch to branch, and that's okay. The more you do it, the less the monkey mind will show up.
Mm-hmm.
And when we slow down, I really truly believe all of the answers lie within us, and you start to hear your own voice, God's voice, and which are one and the same because we're an
Mm-hmm.
expression of his love. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you hear this inner knowing coming up, a lot of times I started getting the answers right from myself. And instead of always looking outside of myself, again, everything my whole life has been this outward gaze of validation and approval and worth. And so now it's this internal, like if there's a challenge or a problem or something that's popped up in my life, I'll spend some time in my intention journal and I'll get real curious about it. I wonder why this keeps popping up. There's got to be a spiritual lesson in this. What is it here to teach me? Instead of going into that victimhood or, judging it, I actually find now that I get so much more curious. And that's what I love about the curious, sober curious journey, is it teaches you that very thing of how to be curious. And I
Mm-hmm.
think when you stay in that state, you're able to work through these challenges that come into your life. So it's the movement, the meditation, and the journaling,
Mm-hmm.
which is all a way of getting these emotions out. And the same is true with journaling. Journaling can be drawing a picture, it can be a whole page of cuss words,
Mm-hmm.
or it can be, this
Yeah, it could be
beautiful
a poem. Who cares?
no judgment again. Like we just beat ourselves up so much and we're so hard on ourselves, and we expect this absolute perfectionism all the time in all areas of our life, and we are inherently enough. And when we do just the few small baby steps in our journeys to get us towards these goals that we want, that's enough. And
Mm-hmm.
we have to believe in divine timing, and that everything is working out in the way that it's supposed to. That allows us to worry less. It's all happening for us, but we have to slow down in
Yeah.
order to receive those messages.
Mm-hmm.
They're all around us, especially I think nature is one of our greatest teachers.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. I have the same experience and philosophy. And let me tell you what, you know how much nature I saw when I was drinking, Meg? Very, very little, very
Me
little.
too.
I think about where I lived when I was in my party girl phase in my 20s and 30s. I lived in Southwest Missouri, and it's one of the most beautiful places in the Midwest. And I'd never went on a hike, never got on a paddleboard. I went out on the boat plenty of times on the weekend.
Yeah,
And how much did I appreciate nature then? Zero. I
right.
just thought I was just out partying, and there's so much more to enjoy. And I would imagine you probably have had a similar experience, that now you're seeing all of these. I think that you call them like daily joys, or daily, what was your phrase for
Find the
them?
beauty of the day. Find the beauty in
Yeah,
the
finding the
day.
beauty
And
in the day. And it can be
that's
the
where the
most
magic
simple
comes.
things.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
magic. I mean, I just recently had my book signing, and I believe that hawks, they sit up really high
Mhm.
because they can see what we can't see, right? And so they know that there's this great path ahead for you and the best is yet to come, but you can't see it, right? We can't see our future. We don't know. It's uncertain. And sometimes we can fall back into that, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And I was pulling into my signing, and it's my first book, my first signing. Is anybody going to even show up? And this huge hawk flew down right on the property of where my book signing was, spread his wings open. And I was like, oh, today is going to be a great day.
Yes. Oh, I love
And
it.
it
I love
was.
animal symbolism.
Yes.
And
And
you
it,
said that you were there for so long and you had people coming in waves to do your book signing, which also was at, I think is so beautiful, a liquor store that has this specific alcohol-free section, which is such a cool and rad move that it was hosted there. I think it's so beautiful. Do you
you
want to
know,
tell us at all about that experience?
oh, it was so beautiful because there were people who were coming in to buy alcohol, and then they saw the live music and the burger truck, and we had a whole non-alcohol tasting bar with non-alcoholic spicy margaritas and bellinis.
Oh,
They were like, what is going on here? And then I'm at my table signing, and so they opted, a few people opted not to get their alcohol and to try. Athletic Brewing was actually doing a tasting there, and so they bought non-alcoholic drinks. And I had, some women that came up to me and they would lean in, I just quit drinking, and they're kind of looking around, right? They're scared, they're not,
uh-huh.
to a gentleman who came in and he's like, I've been 40 years sober, and he bought my book, And so it was, and everything in between. And it was just this beautiful array of people that were trying dry January, dipping their feet into being sober curious, maybe never had heard of it and were just trying it, like those people I told you about. And
Mm-hmm.
it was just this really, really fun way of going out into the community and saying, guys, guess what? There's a different way to live. And some of the moms brought their kids, and I
Mm-hmm.
was able to have conversations with the kids. Like I was like, look, millennials are drinking so much less. You guys are like on the forefront of
The
knowing that
cutting
this
edge.
you. And I was like, and look at all this fun. This is all the fun to be had without alcohol. So it was just a beautiful day. Frank, is where it was, he said the foot traffic was as busy as before Christmas. And it was just this random Saturday in January, and he was thrilled. So it just, I couldn't have been, I was overwhelmed and in awe of it all. And I just couldn't see it. I couldn't see it coming. The hawk did, though.
Yes. Well, I just want to show some gratitude to you for the tremendous undertaking it is to write a book and share your soul onto paper that you know is going to go into the world, and just send you so much like love and success. And I know that this book is going to support and serve so many women and men probably who are looking for a permission slip to change their relationship with alcohol and who need to understand some of these lies and the truth that they have available to them. So thank you so, so much for writing this book and for sharing it with us today. I would love to know if you want to share any other places where people can catch up with you right now, where they can get the book, anything else that you would like to share, because I want to make sure that everyone who is interested knows where to get this and where to catch up with you.
Thanks, Amanda. I appreciate your kind words. So everywhere books are sold, it releases January 17th. And if you want a personalized signed copy, you can go to my website, which is intoxicatinglies.com. You can read the first chapter for free, and you can get your personalized signed copy if you would like to do so there. And I kind of live on Instagram, which is at Intoxicating Lies book, all one word. And I do have a Facebook page as well, which is the name of the book, Intoxicating Lies, One Woman's Journey to Freedom from Gray Area Drinking. So I'm on both platforms.
Yes, well, I will tag all of those in the show notes, and then we're actually releasing this on your release day, so the book is available today, right now. Go, and if you feel inspired by what Meg has shared, grab yourself a copy, and I will be catching up with Meg later, also on Instagram. So check that out if you want to hear some more of this conversation. And we are just so grateful to you, Meg, again for sharing with us all today about your journey and for writing this book and putting your work out into the world. And I just want to give you a nod for everything that you've done to really unbottle your potential and step into your greatness, and all of the work that you went through to, working with me, working with Jen, working with your therapist and somatic um, practitioner to prepare yourself for this great work that you are here to do in this world. And I'm just so, so very proud of you.
Well, thank you so much. I really am grateful to all the women who have empowered me. So thank you.
All right. I hope you enjoy that conversation with Meg, and I hope that you will support her by purchasing her book and writing a review. Writers thrive off of the reviews that you share. It is what helps their book gain prominence on all platforms. So please read and rate and review Meg's book, Intoxicating Lies, and rate and review this podcast. I also wanted to throw out there that Meg mentioned the fact that we worked together in our conversation. And many of you know that I offer coaching for women who are sober curious. But in the past year, I've also started offering mentorships for women who are on an alcohol-free path and want to step more deeply into that path. They want to start uncovering their truest potential. They want to rewrite a lot of these stories. And many people who have an entrepreneurial vision that they want to share with the world, or a gift that they want to share with the world. So if you are on that path, you are alcohol-free and would like some support from someone who has been there and really is passionate about this work, I would love to talk to you. Just email me hello@authenticallyamanda.com, or you can check on my website. I list my mentoring or immersive sessions on there where you can apply to work with me as well. So I hope that you enjoyed this conversation. And if so, it would be great if you shared it and tagged Meg and I on Instagram. And we will talk to you soon, my friends. Take care.